You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingrammicro, where we share topics that will inspire business growth and help you stay ahead of advances in technology before they become mainstream. This episode is sponsored by Ingrammicro Xvantage, the game-changing platform that will transform your business potential and reshape how customers see you. I believe it was Seth Godin who coined the term connection economy. Godin believes the connection economy is built on three pillars of coordination, trust, and permission. Coordination creates value by bringing people together, trust establishes grounds for a relationship, and permission is to do something as simple as talk to people who will listen. Our next B2B Tech Talk guest knows a thing or two about the value of being part of a community, specifically Ingrammicro's TrustXAlliance community. Dino Cooper is CEO of Viadex, a UK-based IT services company. Viadex was recently acquired by another TrustXAlliance partner, Fulcrum IT. And at the core of this acquisition was the trust that was built through their community engagement. Dino joins us today to tell us more about the value of communities, the acquisition, and the road ahead. Let's dig in. Welcome to the show, Dino.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Now, you have been in this industry for quite some time, 22 years.
It's actually a little longer than that. Viadex is 22 years old. My first IT gig was in 1994, 95. So it's
Wow.
it's a little bit longer than that.
So you've seen some incredible changes. You and I spoke earlier, but you talked about the evolution of this industry. What has been most notable for you?
Whoa. So that could be broken into numerous segments, right? I mean, we're talking about a 28-year period. I think the thing that was most notable in an educational way, and from I guess it's quite an interesting story, is my first business was an IT company that was B2C, it was consumer led, it was off the page mail order. I don't know if you remember, people used to go into news agents or magazine stores and buy big thick magazines, and in there there'd be adverts for printers and laptops, and you'd phone and you'd pay with your credit card and you'd have it delivered. So this was quite a big thing in the US and the UK. So we built the operational IP in 1994 through 2000 when my business unfortunately went bust, where we were doing next day deliveries. We were hooked into all the major distributors' warehousing facilities. You know, you could phone us on a mail order hotline up until 4 o'clock in the UK, give us your credit card details, and the next day before 10 a.m. you'd have highly complex back then IT equipment. And we thought we were smart because we were outsmarting shops. At the time, people used to buy computers through shops, right? And that has limited stock and limited range because your shop, you're geographically fixed. So mail order was this thing where the SKUs expanded massively. You know, our cost base came down. We gave customers more choice, and we could deliver, anywhere in the UK, next day delivery, multiple direct drops from different disties warehouses. We had click and collect in the 90s. This industry had click and collect in the 90s. And we were, myself and my two partners at the time were all in our 30s, late 20s, actually, early 30s. We failed to spot the impact the internet would have on how people consume or would consume not only IT, but everything. And we had a business, we were sending 40, 50,000 catalogs a month to early adopters of technology, and we missed all of it. So, it's perhaps not the story that you want to hear about, what's the evolutionary success, but for me, it shaped, that age when you have that big of a failure and you go from, a business with annualized revenues of $50, $60 million, 90 staff. I don't have a formal education. I haven't been to university. I'm a salesperson. That's what, my profession is salesperson, basically. It brings you down to earth, and then you look at what did I do wrong? How did I get this wrong? So for me, that was the most significant lesson. And then from there, the other thing I realized, I didn't want to be in the consumer business. I wanted to be in the relationship business, which meant building relationships with clients, with partners, with other organizations. And that's kind of where we started Viadex, which is our business now, which about 4 weeks ago we sold on to Fulcrum IT Partners. I say sold on. It's a marriage, an adoption. We act independently. Our cultures are aligned. It's really exciting times for us. So,
well, congratulations on the acquisition. Oh my goodness. You said something that I really want to touch on, because someone at the age you were when you ran your business that failed would have easily given up. What got you back on the horse?
I think it would be a lot harder if the business failed now, right? At the age in your late 20s, early 30s, right? You have
A little more
you
resilient.
have a little bit more energy, and quite and you're ostensibly dumber as well, right? So you don't know what you don't know. So you just pick yourself up and you go again. And listen, if you can, a lot of people when things go wrong look to blame circumstance or other people. But once the rawness of the event subsides and you take an introspective look at it, you learn from it, and that's what actually makes you stronger, right?
Absolutely. And the partners that you were working with then, did they move together with you into your next venture?
No, funny enough, because it was B2C, one of the interesting things, and this is another one of the massive lessons when setting up my second business, which was Viadex. As we'd gone past the administrator, the receiver was in, and I was sat in the office tidying things up, and in the tech room there was a phone list of everyone's name and phone extension. There were 95 people's names on there, and I sat there and I thought, I'm going to write down who I would take with me in a lifeboat, or if I were to start again, right? And out of those 90 odd people, there were 6 names, and actually, Dan Hayden Hammond, who's our managing director and a shareholder of Viadex, he was one of those names, and he's still with me today.
What a great strategy. I like it. You just kind of did the Ben Franklin thing. I'm going to make a list, and these people are going on the boat with me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, how long have you been a partner of Ingram Micros?
Oh, wow. I mean, the first business was a partner of
Oh,
Ingram
wow.
Micros,
Okay.
and obviously, being a partner of Ingram Micros for the full 22 years that
Wow.
Viadex has been in existence. They're a pillar of the industry, that the obviously the UK team and the US team now, but in the majority of our history, the UK team, Matt Sanderson and Robin, our account manager, have been incredibly supportive, and partnership is a two-way thing. And it's not supplier customer, it's partnership. So when you need help, or when we can help Ingram in the small way that we can at times that we can, then we do. And we really value it. We value it highly. I know we're here at this TrustX event, and in the context of our business journey, we became TrustX members 4 or 5 years ago. I was based out of Cape Town, South Africa, so it was actually my leadership team that engaged with TrustX, that became part of the Affinity program. They joined Mastermind, and again, it was Dan, my managing director, who was the initial person that went and presented for us at the Mastermind sessions. Now, for those that don't know, I don't know what the audience is here, but Mastermind is the sessions where CEOs, business owners, or leadership teams, you really, I think in the presentation, the award ceremony we just saw, it was described as, CEOs really getting into a room, or leadership getting into a room, and really looking at the DNA of each other's businesses. And I think the key thing with whichever level of the program you interact with, you will get way more out of it based on what you're prepared to put into it. And by put into it, I mean, be open.
Yes.
People ask you questions, be open about your answers. If you have a problem, be open about the fact that you have a problem, and ask your peer group for a solution, right? And you learn an incredible amount. So we've had TrustX partners who have had clients with international requirements, or we've partnered up and with a partner in the US, and then deployed projects internationally. Our largest services client, they have a big subsidiary in North America. They're a French industrial conglomerate. We got that relationship through a TrustX referral, right? So more tangible a benefit to being part of a group, a collective, you couldn't point at, right? You couldn't wish for. And specifically in our journey from, mine and my business partner, when we started Viadex, our initial ambition, because his business separate to mine also went bust. We met at a time when we were both very low, but we still had energy and ambition. So we got together and we put Viadex together, and we had a plan that was within 5 years, we'd put over £1 million on the balance sheet and we'd build a lifestyle business. And we did it in 3. And then we spend a lot of time not really focusing on one business. A lot of entrepreneurs, they'll find that this is going well. I can try my hand at something else that's perhaps a shortcut to success. So I call it like a 10-year hiatus, like from 2005, we were founded in 2000, through to about 2015. The business made money, it had some peaks in revenue, and then it declined a bit, and there was no real consistency to it. And then 2010, 2011, I turned 40. 2014, 2015, my wife's on at me about, we got to move back to the UK. Son's going to have a high school education in the UK, not in South Africa. And I promised her that we'd do it in 4 years. And at that point, I realized actually, I'm now the age that I am, and I've got to really focus on building a strategy around this business, building some real direction, and really looking at where the market is today and where we want to take the market. Right? So you asked, your initial question was, have you seen an evolution? So we're in a massive evolutionary change, not just with things like AI, which is another story altogether, but in the channel for years, as long as I can remember, vendors have said, you've got to add value, you've got to try and, create services around products, and that's how you make your money. We fundamentally believe that the way businesses currently select, buy, have to integrate, manage, administer, own their IT environments in support of their users. It's a 20, 30-year-old program that's busy changing, right? Because the truth is, in our client set, which is largely, well, almost exclusively UK, US headquartered businesses that are between 500 and 15, 20,000 users, no more. It is bigger than that, and there's way bigger partners and way bigger organizations that serve for that. But if you're typically 3,000 or 4,000 users, maybe a couple of thousand people in the US and a couple of thousand people in 10, 15 different countries around the world, you've got a real challenge, right, as a company. Remember, you're not an IT business. You might be designing shoes or an architectural practice or a manufacturer of train parts. But you're forced to have, when you look at the business and what you need to do to buy and maintain and support and deploy all the technology for a business of any sort of size and scale, you add to that the complexity of being in 10, 12, 15, 20. The client I referenced that we got from TrustX is in 71 locations around the world. 71.
Wow.
Right? So they have to solve for themselves unless someone's going to do it for them. So we looked at the world and how the business consumes IT, certainly on an international level. And we decided a few years ago that we have to have an entity with all the tax registrations, bank accounts, all the regulatory stuff, pretty much aligned to where ingrammicro and a handful of other big distributors have their sheds. Because Ingram are in so many countries,
right.
The line cards aren't perfect and it's not perfectly aligned. So I'd love to be 100% Ingram, but there's times when that just can't be the case. So we're setting up entities in every country where Ingram has a facility. Because what we do immediately for our clients and actually for other channel partners, because we have an indirect business, we enable organizations that win a deal in the US for a client that's in 10, 15, 20 countries to just onboard one partner for a single billing solution in Viadex, basically, to do the pricing either essentially through the US and then have us compliantly export the product, right? Or to do it centrally with the vendors and have it come through each Ingram in each one of the countries where it needs to be delivered. invoice to the partner, and then invoice to the end customer. It simplifies the foundation piece, which is the billing engine for making this consumption model a thing. And not just in projects with infrastructure, but in consumption projects, basically. So our terminal vision is everything as a service. And that's scary because a lot of people, including Ingram, make their revenue out of selling SKUs.
Right.
Transactional business. And the big change is that transactional business is going to be around kind of forever and for a good while yet. But much like when cloud started in 2006, there's a scary story that no one's ever going to sell infrastructure, compute, storage, because cloud's going to take it all. In 2021, 15 years later, cloud was 51% of the market, of a much bigger market, and people were still, reselling solutions in 49% of the data center infrastructure space. So the consumption business is coming, the consumption model is coming. There's a timeline between, and I don't think product resale and people owning and administering their own equipment and integrating and supporting their own people and what have you is going to disappear and become a zero. But I think there's an upward curve. And I think if I look at what's going on with Ingram, if I look at what's going on with the vendors, they recognize this. They recognize it, not just the expedience of, if we change all our revenue to annual recurring, our share price is higher, but the fact that customers do not want to consume technology in the way they currently have to.
Right. So I have a couple more questions for you. First of all, if you had your autobiography, what would the title be?
That's an easy one. I joke about this all the time. It's based on the first business, and I could have been Jeff Bezos.
Oh,
right. Because the dude started selling CDs and books in 1998. Right? People were phoning our lines up and buying self-assemble home PC kits in 1996.
amazing.
Shipping 300-400 transactions a day, doing click and collect before Amazon was even a thing. But my parents weren't investment bankers or whatever Jeff's background is, and I was just a kid, thinking I was outsmarting shops, and I failed to see the vision of what was to come. Right. So
My goodness, but you learned so much along the way.
Yeah.
That made you the businessman you are today. One more question. If you could sum up the world of technology today in one or two words, what would it be?
It's always evolving.
Yeah.
That's the truth. We chatted before off camera about AI and how it's miraculous in certain elements and it's very scary in others. I think it's only scary if nothing that is invented is ever bad. It's how we use it, interpret it, what we do with it, right? So there's bad in the use of AI potentially, if that's the way you want to look at it, right? But I think overall, it's evolving, and it's evolving actually more rapidly, I would say, now than at any time in history, right? I think the world is one marketplace. That's happened since 2000,
Right.
when the internet started. Before that, it was only big multinationals that were global, around the world. The internet created a world where it's one marketplace, where businesses of any shape and size can serve clients, have partnerships all over the world. It's interconnected, and that's been our philosophy. And I think that plays into how we're going to need to change and evolve, how these things are consumed, how they end up at the point of consumption, how they're built, and evolving. The one or two words is evolving.
I think it's perfect. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Dino Cooper from Viadex, you are such a pleasure to speak with. This has been very enlightening, and I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Ingram Micro and TrustX for everything you've done for us. Thanks.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Ingram Micro's B2B Tech Talk. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode and you want to continue the conversation online, use hashtag B2B Tech Talk.